Hello and welcome to Our Time. She's the artist and venue manager at the Adelaide Fringe. She's also been the artist and venue coordinator. She's a theatre manager and director and a professional actor and performer. What gives people like this titles? Well, let's ask Lisa Waite. Hello.
Hello.
How lovely to see you.
So lovely
We've
to
known
see
each
you.
other for quite a while, managing venues mostly, but I didn't realise your background before that.
Yeah.
Because you toured internationally and worked in a whole lot of different shows.
Yeah, I did. I was a performer for quite a few
So where did you
years.
start?
So I started, always was, involved.
Always performing?
Yeah. And
As
then,
a little girl?
As a little one,
Driving
yeah.
the whole family nuts?
Absolutely.
Did you do all that?
Drama queen, always, yes. And then I actually was working as a florist for a while when I first finished high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I went overseas and worked in London for a while, and while I was there, I just...
Floristing?
Yes.
Is that a word? What do you call it?
Floristry.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course it is. Stupid me.
Yeah, I was working in the train stations in, the little...
Oh, yes, I
station.
do know.
Yeah, kiosks. and
Actually,
things.
that's what really gives the train stations over there such character, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was fun. It was actually...
Expect My Fair Lady to burst out from Song Everywhere.
There was so many personalities. It was great people watching, I must admit. Yeah, I did enjoy that. And so while I was there, I answered an ad that was just in like the local newspaper about pantomime, and I just sparked my interest in auditioning, and I happened to just take the chance and do the audition. I was successful.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, and then we just kind of like travelled around local London, but like inner suburbs of London and things, and was on the road with Puss in Boots.
How amazing.
Yeah.
See, the Australian public don't know Puss in Boots and a lot of those stories, but in London or in England generally, pantos are huge, aren't they?
They're so big, yeah.
In the middle of winter usually, because the perfect time to go to the theatre.
That's right. Well, this was Christmas and we were actually going around to schools, so it was a small...
Oh, as well, right.
Yeah, we were just in the back of a car, we're driving around, and so a lot of local halls and schools.
Yes,
and,
we've all done those.
Yeah, yes.
And did that give you the real bug for going further with performance?
Yeah, absolutely. So then when I moved back to Adelaide, I started studying at AC Arts, so I did the 3-year advanced diploma. And then I started my own company similar to what I was doing in London, creating children's theatre, producing works that went around to venues, which is where we first engaged.
Exactly.
And schools and halls and libraries.
That's a really interesting start for a career doing that, because it's so real. You don't have the lights, you don't have the big sets or huge costumes and things.
Yeah, I still feel like my set was too big. We had a trailer that we just had to keep putting things in.
Okay, yes.
But absolutely, it's very minimalistic, but it's also... It's real life, and you've got to work with what you've got budget for. So we were carting around cupboards and silly things that we really needed to think outside the box.
You needed another designer to design something simple.
Yes.
That's what we always say to people like piano players, wouldn't it have been better to learn the piccolo? Just carry it around with you, easy.
It's so true, and but you learn as you go as well. Like
of course,
as you.
But we all have dreams, don't we? Dreams to pursue, and I could do this bigger. It could be better.
Yeah, and you sort of start somewhere, and then
exactly. So after that, did you just sort of dribble into venue management because it was there and somebody needed to do it?
Yeah, it sort of started as a opportunity to just learn more, and so obviously it took its toll when I was producing works and sort of always trying to find suitable seasons and venues and funding and all that sort of stuff. So I did want to sort of grow in the industry where I could, and venue management was something that through Adelaide Fringe, a lot of venues were getting activated, so it was a great way of getting involved in something that was always happening throughout.
Well, you were at the parks for quite a while.
Yeah, my first stint was at Holden Street Theatres, and then I went to the parks.
Right.
Yeah.
See, trying to help performers and producers understand what facilities you've got, how it all comes together, because I don't think the general public really understand how complex it is to put a production on.
Yeah,
because it's not just the actual content of the show; it's the selling the tickets, the promotion, the front of house people, having a bar or whatever you serve because people need to drink something.
Yeah.
Making sure the toilets are clean and often doing that yourself.
Yeah.
All those lovely things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, between shows, you've got to do all the washing of the costumes and everything backstage. There's a whole list of things that just never get sort of spoken about.
Well, I suppose that's the beauty of having that background and then moving into this situation with the Adelaide Fringe.
Yeah.
And we often say, the Fringe is the second largest fringe in the world next to Edinburgh and all of those things, and it's about to happen here in South Australia.
Yes.
In a couple of weeks. So you're in a position now to advise people like you when you first started. Is that difficult?
No, I think I'm really lucky because I can really I can relate with what anyone might be going through mostly, especially because we deal with both artists and venues. So it's really great to be able to have a personal understanding of potentially what needs to be troubleshooted or what stage they're at in their registration or what stage they're in their season. It's things that people can learn along the way as well, of course. I've got a whole team that have got life experience in various areas.
It's the life experience that makes the difference, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because artists and performers generally have, well, to be frank, stars in their eyes as to millions of people want to see what they're doing, that people are just going to turn up suddenly when they click their fingers or open the doors. Of course, none of those things actually really happen.
No, there's a lot of work that goes into the back end.
So from the point of view of the Fringe, you must start almost immediately after one Fringe finishes. You must start the next year.
Yep, basically. We have a couple of months which is letting everything settle and, making sure that all the records are in place and we've got all our statistics and things like that from one festival. And basically from April, May, we're already on to the next festival, if not already making plans for, festivals beyond that as well.
The one after.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because it's a beast unto itself, isn't it? Because it can grow in many directions depending on what comes in, I guess.
Yeah, and you don't have just 12 months to work. So, the fact that we have international artists or lots of different events that are coming through, it's not something that's always feasible in the next 12 months. So that's why you're constantly sort of working in advance as well.
So let's talk about some of the things you actually have to troubleshoot, because that's what interests me. So, for example, someone's coming from a foreign country. They've obviously got to get some sort of rights to work in Australia.
Yep.
So who helps them with things like that and accommodation?
So both our team can assist in both ways. There's like visas that they need to have, certain visas that can be allowing them to have activity during Fringe. So we can assist in providing support letters for that to take place. And then also in accommodation, we run what's called an accommodation drive on the registration platform, where local businesses or local patrons or anyone who has a spare room can upload or we can help upload a listing for them so artists can see if there's any suitable in the right area or the right
because the truth is a lot of these performers are doing it on the smell of an oily rag as well.
Yes.
So, getting their plane fare over here, and then you think of all of those, accommodation, hire of the venue, getting your props over or creating them here because they're too big for an aeroplane or whatever. It's difficult.
Absolutely.
So really you're a one-stop shop for assistance, you might say.
Yeah, and if we don't know the answer, we just really active in trying to help them find the best people to speak to from us.
Because the reality with something like the Fringe is you're not bringing a major production in to the Fringe. Fundamentally, Fringe shows are exactly what the word sort of means. They're shows that are different, that push the boundaries, that have some sort of, could be political content, physical content. Circuses were big, or circus acts were big last year, weren't they?
Yeah. The circus has been really big the last few years. It's been great.
Has there been a reason for that? Do you think it's because the general public haven't seen a lot of that type of stuff apart from actual circus? Because it's always different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not the traditional circus stuff, even though you call it that.
I think it's built because audiences are wanting to see it. And I think over time it's just become popular.
Humans doing weird things.
Yeah, and it's just interesting to, it's engaging as well, where you can bring your family, or, a lot of it's family friendly, not all of it, obviously. But yeah, it's something really unique in its own form that people are just really inspired by watching what you can do with your body, or the fantastic skills.
Well, late last year, of course, there was the Melbourne Fringe, which isn't connected. It's a different type of fringe.
Yep.
But the Adelaide Fringe, the city really buzzes. Have you got sort of an understanding as to how many shows are on? Well, I guess you have, because it's your job.
Mm-hmm.
How many shows are on this year?
Well, this year...
Well, it's going to be...
It's still unknown at this point. But
a few of the late minute type things. But
so last year
it was
1,400. Yeah. Yeah, 1,480 or something.
Do you know how many performances that equated to?
Well, that's a great question.
I keep telling people it's about 14,000, because a lot of the shows go on for the whole fringe and some of them are one-night wonders.
Absolutely,
So to me, that's sort of a bit of an average.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of shows on, and to get the traction must be difficult for audiences.
Yeah.
To find the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's really important that we kind of help emphasise with our website, we've got a really great filter system so people can sort of filter with what they're looking for in terms of cutting through the program, and they might be looking for a certain genre, or they might be looking for a time or a date, a location. It's a really great way.
Or to match up shows, to go and see this one and that one and that
build
one.
That best
Make
program.
a night of it, which I always say to people is the best way to see it.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to ask you some very hard questions soon, and I'm going to come back with all of you lovely people and ask them about the Adelaide Fringe in just a tick. Welcome back. Lisa Waite is our special guest, and we're talking about artists and venue management in the Adelaide Fringe. What do you think are the most popular shows in the Fringe?
Oh, there's such a huge range. I mean, obviously, comedy is a really popular genre.
Cheap to put on.
Yeah, it can be. A lot of solo work.
A lot of solo work, yes. Yeah. Although there's more sketch comedy coming into the marketplace now.
Yeah, and a lot of clown as well.
Clowning, yeah.
Yeah.
But not the traditional sort of clown.
No, yeah, it's more in your...
Weird. Different.
Yeah. Clowning is sort of a genre of its own, I think.
It is, yes.
Yeah, abstract.
And it grows. Oh, well, those sort of things grow too with, quirky artistic thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And apart from that, is it the bigger shows that do better than the smaller shows, or is it sort of just a balance of what people really want to see?
I just think it comes down to how to start off with the marketing. Like, if people who are marketing their show understand who their target audience is, so they're understanding where they need to be able to put their energy, where their ideal audiences are. So is it in print, is it in digital, is it on socials? And being able to find their audience is going to make that success for them. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a big or a small show. It is about having that skill set.
The marketing.
Yeah.
Well, as we both know, because we both manage venues during the Fringe,
a
lot of people turn up, they haven't sent you any promotional activities at all, apart from the fact they've registered with the Fringe and they think people will just turn up, but literally they don't. I always say to people, you need to be out there a minimum of 6 months before with your information, so that venues can display, the venues that are permanent venues, because there's a lot of tent venues and with Gluttony and the Garden. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many venues there are in both of those? Because a lot of people think that's the Fringe, but of course...
Well, it actually changes every year. It kind of depends on their site map.
Yeah.
So,
But it's fair, it's large, isn't it?
Decent, yeah. It's probably there's at least 20 in one, and maybe there's 30 or more in another.
So all up, there's around 50 or 60 venues.
Yeah.
That all have got shows on right through that period. Some are small, some are large. But that's not where the Fringe really is, because it's everywhere, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everyone does often think that that end of Fringe, the East End, is, I guess it's the heart of the Fringe that some people might refer to, but it's regional. We go all over South Australia. Yeah. We've got venues that are, and also events that are touring between those venues. like you have in your season.
Yes, well, that's true. And that's the beauty. A lot of people don't realise there's some lovely venues out there.
Beautiful.
Lovely, well-appointed theatres, and then there's some really little interesting, quirky places for smaller shows that can tour.
Yeah, and there are some venues, like in terms of an artist-facing conversation, some venues that are there in the regional spaces that are offering accommodation and, you know, opportunities for artists or events to tour out there to provide a better opportunity for them to have success in the travel.
Right. Well, it's important, I suppose, for South Australia as a state because the government is involved as well, and therefore it's really for everybody. And that's probably the more important thing to push, that there's probably something coming to your local town or close by that's really worthwhile coming to see.
It's so, actually you're right there, because the audiences aren't just people who live in Adelaide. They don't necessarily want to travel into the city, even if you live in the suburbs, you know. And so there are a lot of regional towns who have very a high rate of success with their shows, and the audiences just love being able to see something on their local hall or theatre.
Absolutely. Well, like you go to see a movie in your local cinema, it's a similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like a live show, because a live show can be different every single time that it's performed, because audiences are different. You talk to the performers and, you know, that was a great audience tonight, they were hard work tonight, you know, different comments in between. And it's so true.
Yeah.
So you can experience something in a moment of time, an hour, hour and a half, that nobody else is going to ever experience in the same way again.
Yeah.
And we've sort of forgotten that performance generally in entertainment started with live performances, not Netflix or the other things. It's seeing and breathing the same air as the people that are performing for you.
Yeah.
Is that a good sell?
Wasn't any takes back then.
No,
it was just like straight through.
Yep, start at the beginning, finish at the end, go home.
Yeah.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
Look, I believe greatly in things like the Fringe. I think it's so valuable for us as a society to be able to go out and be challenged sometimes with dramatic things or with comments that normally we wouldn't have thought about. To see people doing stuff that we know we can't do and to be amazed and amused. It must be difficult for you because all of those things are on, but you'll never in a million years get to see everything. How do you decide what to go to yourself?
It really is actually what's the closest to me and what's proximity I'm in. So it's like I use the near me now, and I'm like, where am I right now? What can I go see? I've finished my shift, and sort of I can kind of get into the closest show that's got a ticket available. But really also, because we do get the opportunity to speak to the artists along the way, a lot of them we do sort of tend to love the idea of being able to try and support them where we can. So I tend to make a little list of sort of, that sounds like a good show, just to remind myself for later.
But also you've sort of held the hand of many people along the way.
Yeah, definitely.
It's such an interesting thing to understand. But again, in most instances, you're not going to see a show that's been played, you know, internationally for 10 years or whatever. This is something generally that's created for this type of market, that's a bump in quickly to a venue. You've got, in a lot of the venues, 15 minutes to get all of your, whatever you need, sets, costumes, props, into the area, and then play your show, and then 15 minutes to get it out, because there's another show coming in straight away. Yeah,
majority of the venues are a quick process like that. In and out, you've got 15 minutes either side to bring it all in to get out for the next show that's coming in.
So anybody that's actually thinking about doing a Fringe show in the future, because it's too late now to do this one, what's the best advice you can give them, do you think? Is there a checklist of you need to do this? I mean, we've talked about some of the things, but how do you explain that to people? What's the best way to approach if I'm new to this?
Yeah, okay. Well, first off, I would ask you if you've ever done a show before. And so if you haven't, then
no, I've never done a show before.
Okay, great. So I would suggest that maybe you do a little bit of a opportunity to perform somewhere. If you haven't had a chance to do Fringe before, you might get something in the off seat. Yeah, could be in a lounge room with maybe 4 or 5 people in front of you, give you some feedback on the show that you're putting on. No, honestly, I would say that you would need to look for a venue. If you have never thought of a venue before, do you go and see shows? Do you go and see what those venues already program?
Yep.
Do you think your show would suit that type of venue? Then that's a really great start. I would look at where you, who you think that show is best for. So everyone always tells us our show is
for everyone.
Which
No, it's
sometimes, it's a challenge because yes, there are shows that can be for lots of different ages and whatever, but I think it's really important in this noise that Adelaide Fringe particularly can create with lots of shows. It's really important to understand exactly who those audience members are that you can really see that are going to feed off your show and really absorb it and understand it and love it. And that generally
just because mum and dad love what you do, it doesn't mean an audience will.
You're always going to get your friends and family, great, but you are going to get the general public that don't know you, who are they and how do you have that point of difference to get to them? So you've got to understand, I guess, a little bit about where they might like to go. So you're making sure that, let's say it's a cafe or something, that you've got some kind of messaging at that cafe. So, there's a show that...
So everybody that comes in there knows something's on at
or
their
same
local
with
cafe.
if it's an online social, what websites or whatever do they, or socials do they interact with? Are you putting ads in there?
We've been around for long enough to know that social media has become part of this, whereas it used to be an advertisement in print media or on TV when we could all afford to do those things. Do you feel that there's just so much on social media? How do you get through the noise when you're trying to promote your show? Is it a matter of consistency? Is it about spending money on that?
So I am personally not someone who knows very much in this space. So for me, and this is someone else who might be putting on a show, I would make sure that I've got someone in my corner or I'm paying someone who does know those answers. And there's plenty of people out there who are professionals in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a very good answer, I think, because performers generally, they're good at what they know, but they don't know this other side.
And you don't have to know everything.
Well, you can't.
Yeah.
The truth is.
Yeah.
I've been always impressed after the Fringe with the facts and figures that you are able to turn out. One of the things that really stuck in my mind from one of the seminars you had, that most tickets were sold to women who made the choices as to where to go and what to see. And they were over 35. Very interesting comment on
that's right.
who's booking the
Who's
tickets.
seeing shows. Yeah, exactly.
So if you're trying to reach a particular market, that's probably the market. So what do 35-year-old women look for or look at, and where do they look?
What is that, Malcolm?
I wish I knew. Well, if I knew that, we'd all be millionaires.
Yeah, no, for sure. I keep racking my brain with that question that you asked me about what else I would tell a newcomer. And I think the other thing probably would be for them to have a really clear idea of what they want to put on, and in terms of when they're registering their show or things like that, to make sure that it's very clear in how they've written up about describing their show, because sometimes that's very unclear.
I agree with you, 100%, yeah. It's a long fill in a registration for the Fringe, but it makes you think, I hadn't considered that, or I need to do that. It's great.
There's a lot.
Speaking of that, we've got to take a short break, but we will be back in a moment. And welcome back to our time. Lisa Waite has been my guest, and we've talked a lot about the Adelaide Fringe. We talked only a tiny bit about you. How do you look after your kids and do all of this as well?
I just have I'm very lucky to have a great partner that can do a lot for me, but at the same time, my mind never turns off.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And the phone never stops ringing, no doubt, or text messages.
No.
I hate text messages.
Yeah, I know. I'm constantly making lists of reminders to myself.
Are you missing performing yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what are we going to put together, Lisa?
I know. What do you want to do?
Put together a big show.
Let's do it.
We'll do it.
Yeah. Every year when Fringe comes around, I'm always like, oh, this is great, but just wish it was
I'd like
me.
to be doing this yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, though. Most performers have got to have that other string to their bow.
Yeah.
Pardon me. It's just one of those things that you want to do it so badly. We're wired to perform. I've no idea why. I've never worked that one out. But what do you want to be when you grow up then?
Oh, what a great question. A clown.
Oh, I can't do you?
No, I don't. I was just going to say happy.
Oh, ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
That's true. Look, good luck.
Thank you.
It's going to be a very busy month and a bit now leading up to it, but it's going to be very, very busy.
Yeah, thank you.
So
I'm actually really lucky I get to be involved in all these shows. Then the inner performer in me is just like, I've had some kind of input.
I understand that, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Adelaide Fringe is on in a very short time. We hope you get a chance to go and see something and blow your mind, because that's what the Fringe is all about. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you.
So until next time on Our Time, keep yourself nice till then. Bye.